You feel completely fine. That's the strange part. The doctor mentions a number that slipped a little, says to keep an eye on it. And then you're back in the car with the engine running, trying to work out what you're actually supposed to do differently. No pain sent you there. Nothing hurts now, and that's exactly what makes this hard to take seriously, because your kidneys almost never tell you when they're under strain. They just quietly carry more than they should for years without a word. So here's what the next few minutes are for. I'm going to walk you through 3 things worth pulling back on, the foods that quietly add to that strain after 60, and then the 5 foods the title promised, the ones worth starting to add this week. Simple foods, most of them already sitting in your local shop. But there's one idea I'm holding back on purpose. It's about a group of foods you've been told for years are among the healthiest on earth, and for a straining kidney, they can be the hardest ones to handle. I'm not going to explain that yet because it won't land until you understand what's happening underneath. So hold that thought. We'll come back to it, and it quietly changes what eating healthy even means once you're past 60. None of what I'm about to share is invented, and none of it is mine to claim. It's drawn from the people who study this for a living, the National Kidney Foundation, the Cleveland Clinic, the Mayo Clinic, and the dietary research they publish. I'm not a doctor, and I won't pretend to be one. My only job here is to translate what they say into plain language you can actually use tonight. As we go, do one thing for me. Ask yourself which of these foods is already on your plate most weeks. And if you want, drop the first one you recognize in the comments. I read them, and it helps more people than you'd think. Now, why does any of this matter more after 60 than it did at 40? Picture the fine mesh filter tucked inside a household water system. You never think about it. It runs day and night, catching what shouldn't get through, and you only notice it exists on the day it clogs. Your kidneys are that filter, 2 of them, each packed with somewhere near 1 million tiny filtering units, and every minute you're alive, they're pulling waste and extra fluid out of your blood so the rest of you can keep running clean. Here's the part nobody explains in the exam room. With the years, that filter naturally slows down. It's normal, it happens to everyone. But 2 common things wear the fine mesh faster than age alone: blood pressure that runs high and blood sugar that runs high. Both are quiet, both are painless, and both are doing their work long before any number on a page looks alarming. That's the whole problem in one phrase, and I want you to remember it because we'll come back to it 3 times today. Call it the quiet load. Your kidneys carry a load you can't feel. No ache, no warning light. So the only place the strain shows up is a number a doctor reads to you, which means the food on your plate isn't a small side issue. Day after day, meal after meal, it's either adding to that quiet load or lightening it. Let me make this real with one person. Picture someone we'll call Dennis. He's 69, feels healthy, walks the dog every single morning. At a routine visit, his doctor mentions his kidney filtering number has slipped a little, nothing dramatic, just worth watching. Dennis nods in the office. Then he gets home, sits down at the computer, and the floor drops out from under him. He reads for 2 hours straight. He throws out half his pantry. He orders 3 kidney cleanse teas with the fastest shipping money can buy. And somewhere in all that late-night reading, he sees that nearly every food he loves is on somebody's avoid list, and he just stops, frozen, a little embarrassed even, like a man who should have known better. The teas went in the cupboard. By the end of the month, they were still sealed. And if any of that feels familiar, if you did everything you were told and the number moved anyway, I want you to hear this clearly. That wasn't a failure on your part. You were working with the information you'd been handed, same as Dennis. Nobody gave you the underneath of it, so let's fix that starting now. 3 foods worth pulling back on, not banning, pulling back. Start with the one hiding in a glass. Soda, sweetened iced teas, the flavored drinks that feel harmless because they're just a drink. The National Kidney Foundation puts soda right at the top of the list to keep out of a daily routine, and there are 2 reasons stacked one on top of the other. The obvious one is sugar, which drives the weight gain and the blood sugar trouble that wear down that fine filter in the first place. The quieter one lives in the darker colas, a phosphorus additive put there to hold color and taste that a straining kidney can't clear away as easily as it should. You won't spot it in the big bold numbers on the label. It's down in the ingredients list, where almost nobody looks. The fix isn't misery, it's swapping the everyday glass for water with a real squeeze of citrus and keeping the soda for the occasion, not the habit. Howard Jen Enger, which brings up something you might not expect about the deli counter. Cured and processed meats, the bacon, the sausage, the ham, the sliced lunch meat that makes a 2-minute sandwich, are what the research calls a triple problem, and it's worth knowing exactly why. First, salt, and a great deal of it. Second, those same FOS additives slipped in to hold moisture and stretch shelf life. Third, a heavy hit of animal protein all at once, which becomes the very waste your kidneys then have to filter back out. One food, 3 strains, at the same time. Nobody's asking you to give up a sandwich for the rest of your life. But if lunch meat is the everyday default in your fridge, that's the place to loosen your grip, reach for fresh chicken or fish you cooked yourself, and let the deli slices become a now-and-then thing. And that leads straight into the sneakiest of the 3, because this one wears a disguise. The disguise is convenience. Canned soups, frozen dinners, the boxed and bagged shortcuts, yes, even the ones stamped healthy or lean. Here's the trap. To keep food tasting like something without fresh ingredients, manufacturers lean hard on sodium and phosphate preservatives. And sodium is the one that quietly nudges blood pressure up, which, remember, is one of the 2 biggest wear and tear forces on the kidney we talked about a moment ago. A single canned soup can carry most of an entire day's salt before you've eaten one other thing. 2 simple moves cut most of it away. Read the ingredients, not just the front of the box. And when you do reach for canned beans or vegetables, rinse them under the tap first. That one small habit washes a real share of the sodium straight down the drain. Now, before we get to the 5 foods worth adding, let me be honest about where we're headed, because the best part is still in front of us. Everything so far has been about lightening the load by taking things away. These next 5 do the opposite. They give your kidneys something good to work with. And one of them ties directly to that idea I held back at the very start. The healthy foods that can quietly work against a straining kidney. That's the piece almost nobody ever hears, and it's coming right up. If these translations are useful to you, subscribing is simply how the next one finds you. That's the only reason I'll mention it. Let's keep going. Remember Dennis and his 3 sealed T's? Here's the turn in his story. When he finally sat down with someone who actually knew, not a search bar at midnight, a real person, the message was almost annoyingly simple. There was no cleanse, there was no magic, it was a handful of ordinary foods, eaten consistently, plus a few swaps he could keep up without even thinking about them. That was the whole plan. The relief on his face, he'd tell you later, had nothing to do with a cure. It was about finally holding something small and doable after weeks of feeling like the answer was too big to grab. So here's his handful. You're 5. First, the humble red bell pepper, which the Cleveland Clinic actually names as a standout. It's low in the very minerals a tired kidney struggles to clear, and it's rich in vitamins, A and C, in antioxidants, and in fiber. Think of antioxidants as a small cleanup crew, quietly tidying the everyday wear inside the body. Half a cup a day is plenty. Slice it raw into a salad, roast a whole tray until the edges char, chop it cold into a tuna or a chicken salad, bright, cheap, easy. Berries come next, and they earn their spot quietly. Blueberries, strawberries, cranberries, naturally low in sodium and in the minerals that pile up when filtering slows, and packed with those same calming, anti-inflammatory compounds. Cranberries carry a small bonus for the urinary tract, which sits right next door to kidney health. A little handful on your morning oats, or a few frozen ones dropped into a glass of water, and you've done something genuinely kind for the filter without a second's effort. The third is the one most people walk straight past in the shop. Cabbage and cauliflower, plain, unglamorous, a few coins ahead, and honestly among the friendliest vegetables there are for a kidney under strain. Low in the troublesome minerals, high in vitamin C, folate, and fiber. And cauliflower has one trick worth pocketing: mashed or riced. It stands in beautifully for potato, which matters far more than it sounds like it should, and in about 30 seconds you're going to see exactly why. Because here's the thing I asked you to hold at the very beginning. You've spent your whole life being told to eat more bananas, more oranges, more spinach, more potato. And for most people with kidneys working normally, that advice is good. Those foods are genuinely wonderful. But listen closely now, because this is the part that changes everything. Every one of those foods is high in a mineral called potassium. When your kidneys are healthy, they clear extra potassium without breaking a sweat, so you never have to think about it. When your kidneys are straining, that clearing can quietly fall behind, and potassium begins to build up in the blood, where too much of it can start to affect the steady rhythm of your heart. Sit with that for a second. The exact foods marketed to you for decades as the healthiest possible choice can be the ones a struggling kidney handles worst of all. It isn't that they turned bad, it's that they quietly stopped matching your body, and no one thought to send you the memo. That is precisely why the 5 I'm giving you were chosen, on purpose, to sit gently with nearly everyone. And it's why the real first step here isn't a food at all. It's a number. One simple blood test tells you and your doctor where your potassium and your filtering actually stand today in your body. So don't guess in either direction. Don't swear off fruit in a panic, and don't assume you're in the clear just because you feel fine. Feeling fine, remember, is the whole trap. Ask for the number and let it guide the plate. That one piece of plain clarity is what turned Dennis from frightened into steady, which makes the 4th food a matter of a little care rather than a lot. Fatty fish, salmon, mackerel, sardines, the very kind of fish the DASH eating pattern endorsed for both blood pressure and kidney health actively encourages you toward. Its omega-3 fats help calm inflammation and support healthier blood pressure, which loops right back around to protecting that fine filter. The word to hold on to here is moderate. Fish is protein, and protein is work for the kidney, so this is a serving a couple of times a week, not a slab every night. A piece about the size of your palm, baked with lemon and cracked pepper, is exactly right. And the 5th food is the one that makes cutting the salt survivable in the first place: garlic and onion. On their own, they're low in the minerals we've been watching all along. But their real job is bigger than that. They're how you walk away from the salt shaker without walking away from flavor. Roasted soft, sautéed golden, or stirred in raw, they give food the depth that salt used to carry, which matters more than it seems, because a great many people, the moment they're told to cut their sodium, reach instead for a salt substitute. And here's a small but important surprise. Most of those substitutes are built out of potassium chloride. Potassium, the very thing a straining kidney may already be fighting to clear. So if your kidneys are under strain, that particular swap can be exactly the wrong one. Check with your doctor before you ever pick one up. And in the meantime, let garlic, onion, fresh herbs, and a squeeze of citrus carry the load. They do it better anyway. That last point leads straight to the single mistake that quietly undoes all of this, and it's so common it's almost invisible. You do everything right. You buy the peppers and the cabbage and the good fish, and then you drown them. A heavy pour of bottled dressing, a long flood of soy sauce, a shake of a seasoning blend that's mostly salt in disguise and in one careless motion. Every bit of sodium you work to cut comes marching back in through the side door. The best kidney foods on earth can't outrun a habit of salting on reflex. The better way is almost embarrassingly simple. Taste the food first, before the shaker ever comes near it. 9 times out of 10, with garlic and citrus already in there, you'll find it doesn't need the thing you were about to reach for. So let's pull the whole picture together, short enough to say to someone across the kitchen tonight. 3 to ease off of: the sweet drinks, the cured and processed meats, and the salty packaged shortcuts. 5 to lean into: red bell peppers, berries, cabbage and cauliflower, fatty fish in moderation, and garlic and onion standing in for the salt. And underneath every bit of it, the one idea to carry with you, the quiet load. Your kidneys never shout. So the real kindness happens in the small, boring, everyday choices, and in knowing your actual numbers instead of guessing at them. Here's my one question for you, and it's an easy one. Which of the 5 was already on your table this week? The peppers, the berries, the cabbage, the fish, or the garlic and onion? Tell me in the comments. I'm genuinely curious which one you're already closest to. And if a particular person came to mind while you were listening, the one in your life who reaches for the salt before they've even tasted the food, send this over to them, not as a lecture, just as something you learned today that made you think of them. Next time, we're hitting into the other half of this, the half almost nobody talks about, what to actually drink for your kidneys after 60. Because water isn't the whole story, and one drink that gets called healthy all day long may be quietly pulling the wrong way. That one tends to catch people off guard. One last thing, and I mean it gently, everything here is meant to teach, not to treat. It isn't personal medical advice, and it honestly can't be, because I don't know your body or your history. If your kidneys are under strain, if you've already been given a diagnosis, or if you take any medication at all, let your own doctor or a kidney dietitian help you fit these ideas to you. You know your body. They know the fine details. Together, that's the team that keeps the quiet load light for a long, long time to come.